Welcome to the Under the Sink Light series. Today we're making mini pumpkin muffins. This is our very first episode. So we're starting off with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I don't necessarily level it. I just kind of scrape it to make it even, but you can level it if you feel like you need to. I'm just making this at home for my baby, honestly, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I put everything away as I go, just because my brain gets kind of scrambled if I don't do that. I'm sure you've heard before, clean as you go. Mine is put things away as you go. Next is 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I do level that because in the can there's the little ledge. Makes it easy. And then next is going to be 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. It's not in the packaging here. I put it in a mason jar because I bought a huge thing, mostly for deodorizing our mattresses, but I keep this in the fridge for baking, and that way it doesn't absorb the fridge odors. And then next is just going to be 1/2 teaspoon of salt, but really I just did kind of a healthy pinch of kosher salt. I don't usually measure the salt anytime I bake or cook. It's just kind of a feeling. And then it calls for 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, but I really don't like cloves. So I really just used cinnamon, and it's 1 teaspoon, but I really just measured with my heart here. The baby loves cinnamon ever since he was really little, so that's what we go for with the main flavor profile on these. Next is going to be 1 1/3 cup of pumpkin puree. Usually I buy the bigger can so I have more to spare, but these were on sale. Gotta make do. This is me eyeballing on the measuring cup, realizing that it doesn't list 1/3, so I'm just gonna have to guess. And that much looked about right. I was kind of eyeballing it, getting it in between 1 1/4 and 1.5. Again, just making them for at home, so they don't really have to be perfect. And then in the recipe that I referenced, it did call for vegetable oil, but I went ahead and replaced it with unsweetened applesauce. But I kept the measurement the same. It was 1/3 cup, which of course I eyeballed because the measuring cup didn't have thirds listed on it, but all in a day's work. And then the recipe did not call for vanilla, but I feel that most baked goods need vanilla, so I added about 1 teaspoon plus a smidge. And then we went right into adding 2 large eggs. The little parchment paper is so I don't get egg boogers on the counter. And then for whatever reason, sugar was listed at the bottom of the recipe, so I went ahead and added that to the dry mix. It was probably because they wanted me to put it in the wet mix, but we're not doing that today. It called for 1 1/4 cup, but I just did 1 cup. And then I'm giving the dry ingredients a toss, which I should have done before dirtying the spatula. And then in goes the wet ingredients, making sure to get every little bit that I could. Don't know if it's visible or not, but this spatula is bent at the end because I melted it, but it does the job still. And then mush, 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 mush. Try and break the egg yolks. And then give it a good stir. But not too crazy on the stirring. I even honestly stirred more than I thought I should have in this. But they ended up coming out fine. But you don't want to overmix because things will get tough because of overworking the gluten, etc. and so forth. But I do make sure I scrape the bottom of the bowl multiple times so that I don't have any pockets of flour or, God forbid, leavening, because that does not make for a tasty muffin. Alright, now you can definitely tell that spatula is bent, but it's all mixed up now. I'm going to give the counter a quick little wipe, just because I don't want to get anything on the bottom of the muffin pan so that it doesn't burn onto the pan in the oven, because that's a nightmare. I used a drop scoop. I think this one was like 1 ounce, so it would be like 2 tablespoons, and then just canola oil kitchen spray. The first 2 I actually missed, so that's why I went back and did them again. And then we just scoop 1 level scoop into each little pocket, and it ends up being, like 3/4 full, which is what's recommended in literally every recipe you'll read. And boom, just like that, it's all magically scooped into the pan. And then they are going to go into the oven pretty shortly, but I always want to cover the excess batter with plastic just so that it doesn't get like a skin or like start to harden on top. Just because sometimes it can end up baking into it and that gets weird. So now they came out. I baked them at 350 for 16, kind of 17 minutes, because I had to set up the frame, so it kind of ended up being 17, but I set the timer for 16. I let them cool for just a couple minutes until I could touch the pan with my bare hands, and then bam, they're all out of the pan just like that. And then I did go ahead and respray the pan with just a little bit of the pan spray again, just so I would ensure that nothing would stick, because cleaning these pans is a living nightmare. And then in the extra cups that I did already spray, I put some water in so that the cooking oil or the cooking spray wouldn't burn in the empty cups, because it ends up being super hard to get off when I clean it. And let me tell you, that has saved me many a pans. And just like that, all of them are baked. They're all cooling. The recipe ended up making 42, but it would be 41 if you didn't want to fight for that last little bit of batter like you saw me doing. And voila, there are your mini pumpkin muffins. And then just so you can see the measurements and what changes I made, the cooking time and the yield. Alright, and I hope you enjoy.